got our first interview of the day back. We had a little technical difficulty with Bassmaster Classic winner Cliff Pace, but I believe we've got him back and ready to talk to Classic champion and lure designer Cliff Pace. Cliff, can you hear us?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
Good. You scared me. I thought we didn't have you again, but we can hear you.
Yeah, we got it figured out now, I think, mate.
All right. Well, hey, great to have you. You know, we did a little intro on you earlier about how you're not just a great professional fisherman, but really a lure head and a lure maker extraordinaire. And you've got some great new stuff to show us. Up first from Black Label, we got the Cliff Pace 1.5 Squarebill crankbait. Can you tell us about that guy?
So I've been building Balsa baits for a long time. Everybody kind of knows that. It's always been it was a hobby of mine, and it became a company, and you know now it's growing and growing and growing. And you know the 1.5 has just been in the last decade, it's been that kind of iconic crankbait shape and style. But you know there's not very many people have produced one that's made out of balsa, and we all know the attributes that balsa gives to crankbaits, especially in the Squarebill family. So I just, you know, when I had the all-time that I had this year, I just really wanted to make a 1.5. So I made a lot of variations of it, probably 40 or 50 different prototypes, playing with it until I finally got, you know, the Black Label 1.5 to be exactly what I wanted it to be. It is. It's your standard 1.5 shape, but it's constructed out of balsa. It's constructed with the same process I used to produce all of my other Black Label bait. One thing about the bait that kind of was important to me is I really wanted the 1.5 to have a lot of body roll. I feel like, you know, there's been a lot of 1.5s that have been made of plastic. It's kind of like the Vision 110 jerkbait. It's like, if you're going to buy one, which one do you buy? There's 40 different variations of it seems like. And the 1.5 has kind of fell in that loop. And some that have been built have been awesome baits, and some that have been built have been just baits. And over the years of me fishing with them, I feel like that bait, with the vibration that it gives off, you know, the more body roll one has, it seems like the better it is. You get more flash off the bait, especially if it's a two-tone bait like this where you have a chartreuse belly with a black back, with the pearl sides. You get more color variation and more flash off of your different colors when you have that stronger body roll. And to accomplish that with mine, if you look at the 1.5 dead on, if you notice the bill, compared to most other crankbaits, it doesn't have a lot of taper on the side. The bill maintains its width from left to right, really all the way back to the body of the bait. And what that does when I play with it is it makes water push off the bill up higher. So when the water exits the bill, it's closer to the bait, which causes it to have more of a downward motion on the nose of the bait, which produces that strong left to right roll. So, you know, it's got the vibration and the feel of average 1.5. It's got all the benefits of being made from balsa. It comes through covered great. It's a great, you know, this is a great do anything balsa Squarebill. It's not specifically perfect for cranking super thick wood like some are designed for or known for. This is a balsa Squarebill that it is good around wood, but you can also get away with cranking some grass with it. And it's got a light enough action to keep you get away with just cranking a rip-rap bank or things like that with it and still be successful. So, you know, I have high hopes for this bait. Like I say, I spent a lot of time designing it, made a lot of different prototypes, and I think it's going to fit a very wide application of uses for your shallow water cranking guys. It's not just a bait that a guy's going to want that lives on a river system or cranks cycle street down in Louisiana Delta. This is a bait that fits the bill in a lot of, you know, scenarios.
You know, Cliff, you mentioned that there's just a lot of that 1.5 Squarebill style baits on the market, but for the most part, they're all plastic. And this fits a really interesting niche, Corey.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. One I'm most excited about is I'm a big fan of cranking. Obviously, I've said it enough times on this show, but balsa baits as well. And be able to get these balsa baits now, quality made, well thought out, like fine-tuned by you, but be able to get them on a fairly regular basis. I'm just, sure. I've said it before, but I'm just really stoked to get baits like this myself, and and fish them.
Yeah, not just beautiful handcrafted pieces, but also beautiful paint jobs. I know, Cliff, you couldn't see that, but we had some close-ups there of the baits. It was awesome. So thanks for taking us through the 1.5 Squarebill, available for pre-order on the site right now. So hey, Cliff, up next we have the Black Label Hickster flat crankbait.
Yeah, the Hickster. So for the guys in the Balsa bait world, which a lot of your customers, they're Balsa bait junkies just like me. I mean, that's where all this came from for me. It was my obsession with wooden baits, and when their availability got really hard, I started making my own. And Ed Chambers made the WEC series of wooden baits, and Ed Chambers, golly, he was an icon in our sport. He did so much. He was the founder of Zoom, and he made the Zoom crankbait. Well, unfortunately, we lost Ed a couple of years ago, and I was a big fan of Ed's Balsa baits. I actually own a lot of them. Still own. Some of the baits are selling on eBay for hundreds of dollars a piece, and I kept all mine just because I think they're that cool, even though I don't fish with them because I manufacture my own. But the Hickster, the Peanut, and the Wreck are kind of in that family of baits. When Ed passed away, I bought Ed's equipment that he used to manufacture his WEC baits. I actually bought one of Ed Chambers' machinery pieces. And as guys found out that I purchased that, they really started asking me to reproduce some of Ed's more sought-after and popular baits. And I've never been the guy that's tried to copy stuff. That's just not my thing. I've always designed my own deal. But I had so many people begging me for these baits that I felt like it was the right thing to do. I hope nobody gets offended by it. But these are baits that were going to be lost to the ages unless someone like me stepped up and tried to replicate them. I'm not saying they're the exact same as this bait, but they are similar. And my Hickster is a version of what the WEC Hickey Balsa bait that Ed Chambers made. It's a flat-bodied bait, but it's very different from like my Slim. The Hickster, if you look at it, it has a thumbnail bill, and it has a much steeper bill angle. If you look at it, it actually has the bill angle more of like a Squarebill. So if you compared it to like the 1.5, when you look at the actual bill angle itself, you can tell they're fairly similar in steepness. And what that does is it gives you a flat-sided bait, but it has a pretty fast and a pretty hard vibration. So it's not your typical cold water flat bait, even though it does work in cold water. This is a flat bait that also still works throughout the warmer months of the year. And it was unique in that respect, and I think that's why so many people sought after it and liked it. So I'm making the Hickster, started making it just now. It's also a bait I think y'all got left this pre-order. We're building a big production run of them right now. It's got a circuit board bill. The line tie comes up through the bill. If you look at the bottom of it, you can see the line tie actually comes out of the body of the bait, comes through the bill. That's different than a lot of my other baits that I manufacture just because a lot of guys like that. They think it helps keep the bait tuned a little better. The bait's going to run about 4 foot on 12-pound test fluorocarbon. And, this is just a really good, it's going to be a really good cold water bait, but it's also going to be a flat bait that you can use later in the year. I've actually had a lot of success with this bait this year. Once it's warmed up, cranking the outside edge of grass and fishing isolated cover, not real thick stuff, but isolated stuff on a Squarebill on this bait just to show the fish something a little different.
Yeah, very cool bait. I'm a big fan again of cranking in those flat-sided baits. Just stoked that again we can get those available for ourselves to fish. And if you guys want to get one for yourself, you can pre-order those right now on Tackle Warehouse.
You bet. I mean, Cliff was talking about he hopes he doesn't offend anybody. I think it's a beautiful tribute to Mr. Chambers, who's done so much for the industry, and I think it's great that the legacy of that crankbait lives on. So thank you for taking us through that, and thank you for continuing that shape so we can continue to catch fish on it.
Definitely.
So up next, Cliff, we got the Black Label Cliff Pace Peanut Crankbait. Yeah,
so the peanut is kind of a smaller variation of the Hickster. It's a little fatter. It's a flat bait, but it's got some width to it. I made this bait a little fatter so I could put a little more weight in it and it still maintain good buoyancy and actually be very castable. A lot of your real small balsa baits, They're real hard to fish with. You see guys having to fish with them on a spinning rod. The peanut, I wanted that small profile bait, that I could still tie on a casting rod and make accurate casts with and still cover a lot of water with. Our fisheries in the United States, I think, have more fishing pressure now than they've probably ever had in any of our lifetime. And the peanut is meant to fit in that finesse category of balsa bait. It's a small bait that's tailor-made for when you need a smaller profile, kind of a niche profile crankbait to fish that 2 to 4 foot water depth. It actually comes through cover surprisingly well. It's got the same thumbnail circuit board build as what the Hickster has. It's constructed the same way as the Hickster with the line tie going through the lip and back into the bait. Comes with all the same hardware, same mustad, TD76 hooks, as all of my black label baits do. But, this is a bait that is going to really excel, I think, on a lot of your very difficult fisheries. And this is also kind of a bait that falls into the category of a bait that Mr. Ed made, which was his mutt. This is basically my version of that, but it is different than specifically a mutt, but it kind of fits that same niche need, that same small profile. I mean, when I lay this bait in my hand, and compare it to a 1.5, you can see it's a relatively small bait, but it's got a good feel to it. It's not so overpowering that you couldn't fish it in the colder month of the year, but it's not so tight that you wouldn't want to use it in the warmer months of the year. So I think this bait is going to be very, very well received by the general public. I think this bait is a bait that a guy can take to just about any body of water and get bit on it. It's a very, very good crankbait to fish behind other anglers. And the more I fish with this bait, the more I'm impressed with the way this bait does come through cover, because most little small flat-sided baits do not come through cover that well. This one comes through cover extremely well.
With this being a little smaller, lighter weight bait, what rod, reel, line do you use when you're fishing this guy?
I crank every bait we're looking at today on my TFO. It's a TFO 7-foot tactical elite. It's a 704 or 705, excuse me. And on this bait, I'm going to use either 12 or 15 pound test. I see 100% fluorocarbon, and normally a 6-4-1 Savage gear reel, just because, I might use the 12. I'm trying to get a little more depth out of the bait, or if the water's really, really clear, and then I'm going to step up to 15 if I'm fishing around more cover, or if the water's got some stain, or if I'm just trying to keep the bait up a little bit. And I kind of went back to the old school deal. All of us are so hung up on fluorocarbon, and, fluorocarbon is great, but, I've gotten back to using my Grand Slam co-pilot with a high seed mix for cranking a lot, just because a lot of times you need the bait to actually run shallower. I actually had a tournament last year where up in Wisconsin, I actually used the copolymer a good bit because the water was, I was cranking a lot in like 2.5 foot of water, and it was keeping the bait up. So it's important not to forget that we all love fluorocarbon line, and we all know it's the dominant line in the market. But sometimes you need a line that's got some flotation to it to make your bait run higher in the water column, and your copolymers and monos are a great solution for that. So I mix it up, use a lot of different stuff just to try to match the need that I need for that day.
Well, Corey, that's the Black Label Cliff Pace Peanut Crankbait, available to buy now on the site. And some great tips from Cliff there about changing your line, either your line diameter or your line type to really change the way the same crankbait runs. Some really good tips there from a master.
Definitely. And another bait that we got new, it's also available for purchase right now from Black Label, is the Black Label. This is the Rex Squarebill, correct?
It's the Rex. It's the Black Label Rex. And here it is right here. This is the Black Label Rex in the river brim color, which is probably the most popular color that I've painted this year. This is a new color that we came out with for 2020. And the Rec, we released it earlier in the year. Y'all had it on the site for quite some time. It's been very well received. The Rec it does fall in the category of your typical fat body balsa crankbait. This is the bait that a lot of guys expect to see made from balsa wood. It's a fat-bodied, round-bodied bait. This bait is going to excel in those super thick cover type situations. This bait actually, for the size, it gets fairly deep for its size. I actually used this bait a couple weeks ago over at Lake Chickamauga in the FOW event, and was cranking grass that topped out in 5 foot, and I could actually hit the grass 5 foot deep with this bait on 12-ounce test line. So, the black label wreck is it's a 2-inch long bait, weighs 3/8 of an ounce. It's got a Lexan bill versus the circuit board bill, and I want to touch on that for just a second. So a lot of guys have asked me, why do you have certain baits with Lexan bills and certain baits with circuit board bills? Because most companies that you see, if they're Balsa bait companies, they kind of go one way or the other. Well, I actually think that certain situations, one bill shape is better than the other. But if you look at the 4 baits that I've laid out here today that are new, the 2 Squarebills, the 1.5 and the Wreck, both have the Lexan material. And then the flat baits, the Peanut and the Hickster, both have circuit board material. I personally believe that, the flat baits, they're all about the swimming motion. And I think circuit board gives you a better swimming motion. It's thinner, it cuts the water better, it has less resistance. And I actually have a series of Squarebills, the CBS 1 and 2, which I also carry and sell. I have a circuit board bill. I don't got like that. But when it comes to cranking really thick, gnarly cover and wood and a lot of hard cover like surfaces, the Lexan bill to me, it just simply performs better. Because the Lexan bill is thicker, I don't think it finds as many cracks. So I think it comes through cover better. It doesn't hang up as much. And it also to me, it holds up better, especially around rock. You guys.
Yeah, Cliff, that's something, Corey, that I've never given an ounce of thought to on balsa baits. A Lexan bill versus a circuit board bill, and of course, leave it to a tackle guru like Cliff Pace to really break that down for us.
Yeah, break it down again in quality stuff, quality components, and just a really cool bait. And again, I keep talking about it, but it's cool to be able to get this bait and get them right now. But a balsa bait for $16.99. I mean, that's pretty awesome, and you'd be able to get them at that price and get them on a regular basis. Again, I keep talking about that, but it's a very cool bait. Again, $16.99 right now on Tackle Warehouse.
All right, and so that does it for Black Label, Cliff. But there is a swim bait from V&M that we'd like you to talk about, even though the guys in the control room are begging me not to divulge what they think is their going to be their new secret swim bait. This is a cool little deep-bodied shaped shad-bodied swim bait, the V&M Wild Shad swim bait, available to buy now on Tackle Warehouse. Cliff, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so here we go. So we got the Wild Shad swim bait this year from V&M. This was our bait. This was our baby that we spent all spring playing with and trying to get exactly right. And, there's a lot of things about a swim bait that are important. And there's a lot of swim baits on the market now. And I wanted one that was going to be different, but not only was going to be different, but it was going to be what I felt like was better. So me and Kevin Jean and Rick Chappell up in Tennessee, we're all good friends. We're all involved in V&M, and we all kind of put our heads together and started playing with this deal. And the whole thing about this bait is, let's just start with the actual profile. This bait actually looks like a shad. It's not round. It's not circular. From a side image, this bait actually gives you that bait fish profile, which in real clear water, which is where these smaller size swim baits like this are often used, I think that is a huge advantage just in itself. But because of that, when we added the ribs to this bait, so many of your really great swim bait gurus, if you want to call them, I don't consider myself to be one, even though I do throw the bait a lot, will tell you that the most important thing about a swim bait when it comes to the action is that not just the tail kicks. So many swim baits, when you reel them in, just the tail paddles back and forth. But to really have a swim bait that's really great, you want a bait that actually has some body movement along with the tail movement. And that's what was so hard to accomplish with this bait, but we finally got it to do that. We finally got it perfect, in my opinion, and it's a balance of the right body size with the right tail size to create the right amount of resistance to make the bait have body movement. And what I mean by that Because when you're retrieving this bait through the water, the tail's going back and forth, but the nose of this bait is actually turning back and forth as well, which makes the bait look extremely lifelike. These baits are super, super soft. We've got them in 6 colors. They've got a great scent to them. We've got them in black and blue, chartreuse with a blueback, electric shad, green pumpkin, watermelon lemon. My favorite is the rainbow shad, and my second favorite is the French pearl. Caught some fish this last week up in Wisconsin on this bait. This bait also has got enough beefiness to it and bodiness to it, enough resistance and tail kick that I think this bait is going to be very well received by all of you bladed jig guys and swim jig guys as a trailer. So, I mean, this is a bait you can put in your boat and never take out. It's great. It's going to be great for your A-rig. It's going to be great for your guys that are just throwing single swim baits on a jig head. It's going to be great as a trailer on so many of your skirted baits, spinner baits, bladed jigs, swim jigs. So a very versatile bait, a very effective bait, and you know this is probably one of the soft plastic baits that I've been a part of designing that I think is the coolest and I'm most proud of to be say I had a part in actually bringing it to life.
Yeah, you know, Cliff, that's a bait that I've been waiting for the industry to deliver for a long time, and I think all of us in the office here, when we saw this for the first time, everybody got really excited, and you know, it's just. You could say, oh, it's just a soft plastic swim bait, but it's got a profile like none of the other paddle tails out there right now. And great, not just a great shad profile, but as you alluded to, you know, a little bluegill, baby bluegill for a swim jig or a bladed jig. Great opportunity there, Corey.
Yeah, like you know Brian very well, and first thing Brian said, it looks like a little snacky, and it does. It's like the perfect little snack, you know, to grab. And just, I don't know, Cliff, is it just from the mold of that you guys are using, or I noticed there's a little dimple or dish on the head of the bait. Is that part of the design, or is that just because of the mold?
That's there for a purpose. You know, I rig this thing most of the time on a ball head. I really like a ball head jig head, I think, for this head, for this bait. And that little dimple enables it to marry up perfectly to the back of that ball head jig. So when you're fishing it on an A-rig or when you're fishing it independently by itself, it fits up to the back of your jig head absolutely perfect, snug all the way around. You know, another thing I want to say about this bait is we've got it in a really good clamshell packaging, so every bait you buy, you're going to get the fish with. You're not going to get baits with bent tails. You're not going to get baits that are out of shape or out of sorts that won't swim right.
Could you run us through what rod and reel you use on this bait here?
I'm using the TFO 6'10" spinning rod. It's the Tactical Elite 6'10" medium power with 16-pound test high seas Grand Slam braid, typically spliced to a 10-pound test high seas 100% fluorocarbon leader.
Very cool.
Yeah, really interesting. Cliff, thank you for taking us through the Black Label baits and the new V&M swim bait. A lot to like here. Thank you for your time and thanks for your patience today. We're so glad we could get you on at the end of the show.
Hey, it's my pleasure anytime. Thank y'all so much. My hat's off to y'all for trying to let's do the best we can and not miss out on the opportunities that ICAST gives us every year. And I think this was a great idea. I really appreciate y'all putting it all together.
We appreciate you, Cliff, and thank you for joining us. And you have a good day, sir.
Y'all do the same.
You bet.
Bye. Corey, Cliff Pace, a classic winner on top of how many classic winners have we talked to this week? FLW Cup winners, MLF winners. I mean, we've really talked to some heavy hitters of the industry, some legends of the sport.
Kenny Parker.
It's been an honor personally for me to talk to a lot of these guys and bring that to our Tackle Warehouse audience.